file in, get close to the front, because we've got a microphone set up there if you want to come ask questions, or it's a pretty quiet room. It may not stay quiet. Be able to let you guys ask some questions as we get into this panel. Mr. Andy Field here, Five Nights at Freddy extraordinaire, voice actor to a generation. Oh.
Who's the first guy to come to the table? I remember almost everyone.
There we go. Is everybody, so just before we get the panel started, is everybody having a good time at SFGE? Who's been here since yesterday? Pretty much everybody. A couple of people that just come today, I'm guessing. All right. Cool. So SFGE has been going on for like 12 or 13 years or something like that. Who's been going here the entire time from day? Oh, so how many years is it?
I think it's a couple years less than 6 months.
A couple years less.
Her dad also is the founder of the.
Oh, you're Preston's daughter? That's not fair.
Stop telling everybody that.
That doesn't count. All right, who's been going here for at least 10 years? Okay, right there. Nice. I've been going for 8, I think. It's a great convention. Does everybody agree with that? This is by far our favorite. I'm with Gen X Front for YouTube content creation group. And we've been around for that whole time. We came to SFGE on a little road trip. The first year we were making videos and found this event. It is by far our favorite in the southeastern United States, which is what Southern Fried Gaming is. It's a great convention. All the pinball and video games and the board game setup and everything. But one of the best parts of SFGE is getting to bring wonderful people from the industries like Andy Field here. Everybody, let's give Andy a round of applause. All right, so Andy, you've been a voice actor for quite a little while, but I asked you a couple of questions just to kind of get the stage set and everything, and then we're going to let you guys ask whatever your heart desires of Mr. Andy Field. All right?
Set the stage. No
We're
pun
going to set the
intended.
stage, right? All right, so when you first booked the role of hand unit, did you have any idea how massive the Five Nights at Freddy fandom was? And what was your reaction when you realized you become a core part of the universe?
I had never heard of Five Nights at Freddy's. I may have seen the merch at the stores and stuff, but I was a middle school teacher and, you know, busy. My kids were not gamers, and so we just didn't know what it was. But it is a good story. That's a great laid-off question. So I was teaching middle school, and I was teaching STEM, which, you know, was already kind of a small elective. And I maybe only had 5 kids in class that day. I don't know what was going on. There was probably some away game for a middle school or something like that. It was ridiculous. Anyway, there were like 5 kids in class, and so they were doing almost nothing, and I was doing almost nothing, and I was on my personal email, not my school email. And I got the email that said, you booked a voiceover job. And they knew I was a voice actor. They'd seen some commercials, you know, and like the Contagion video game with the zombies in it.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey guys, I just got a voiceover job. And they're like, oh yeah, great. And I said, oh, it's a video game. A little more interest. Like, oh, great. I said, do you guys want to hear some of the script? And they're like, yeah. So I started reading the script, and it was things like, due to the unfortunate closing of Fazbear Pizza, and one kid went, that's a Five Nights at Freddy's game. I said, I don't know what that means, but I know I better not read another word. So I emailed the guy and I said, hey, I don't know what kind of non-disclosure agreement we're on here, but I just read some of the scripts to some 8th graders because I'm a teacher. And he said, well, you can say that you're in the next Five Nights at Freddy's game since it's in the script. Since it's in the script. In other words, like Kellen Goff didn't know it was a Five Nights at Freddy's game because it didn't say it in his script for Funtime Freddy. He didn't know his character's name was Funtime Freddy. That's how in the dark we are on all this stuff. And so I got to tell all my students, that was in the spring, that I was in it, and then in the fall, so 10 years ago right now, I had recorded it, and as the school year began, those new kids that came in knew that I was in the next Five Nights at Freddy's game. And it came out in October. So that was, yeah, I had no idea what it was.
Came out in October, so right at the start of the school year.
Yeah. And then in January I did my first Comic-Con, and May I quit teaching. So So,
Wow.
not because Five Nights at Freddy's made me rich, it was just that part of my career I was getting to where I could say, I could replace teaching.
Time to make a transition.
You know, the commercials and the e-learning courses, radio stations and all that.
All right, well, I'm gonna ask this next question, so it's gonna take a little bit more thought. Voice acting an AI guide means you don't have facial expressions or body language to rely on to help create the character. You're meant to sound somewhat automated. What's the biggest challenge in bringing a disembodied robotic character to life while still making them entertaining and full of personality?
So it's actually easier to do that than it is to do a conversational bit. Because, like, everybody who thinks they could be a voice actor can imitate a commercial or imitate a DJ or something like that. It's taking someone else's words and making them sound like they're your words. That's the hard part. So doing hand unit was actually kind of easy. It was like, we'd like it to kind of sound like an 80s infomercial, and the humor of it is delivering absolutely terrible lines in just a cheerful infomercial voice. And so it's kind of easy to say, looks like Funtime Foxy is taking the day off. Let's motivate Foxy with a controlled shot. And you're like, but I didn't have to say that like you and I were just saying, hey, give him a shot. Just zap it, you know. Whereas Secret of the Mimic, the newest game, dispatches a very conversational voice. So that's much more challenging and much more fun, I thought.
Wow, okay. Good to know. So you've had some of the most quotable lines from the franchise. Do you have a personal favorite line that you've recorded, and did you ever anticipate Exotic Butters becoming a massive meme?
Well, Exotic Butters, man, it's funny because I got the scripts for that game one at a time. You know, so I had recorded night one and I thought that was it. And then they sent me night two and I thought that was it. It didn't occur to me there were 5 nights, hence the name of the game. And then night 4 was silent anyway. And night 5, I was just like you guys. When I got the script, I was like, oh gosh, what's he going to say this time? It's a running gag by the time Exotic Butters came around. I think Eggs Benedict is still my favorite line from the games because we didn't, if you watch the YouTubers, go back and watch them and pretend like you've never heard of Five Nights at Freddy's, and all we've had were the first 4 games, which were kind of dark, kind of simple, kind of point and click, and then Sister Location came with this whole new vibe. And in comes Hand Unit with this voice, and you're like, what's this going to be? Sounds like it's going to be funny. And then he auto-corrects your name to Eggs Benedict, and you're like, this is going to be funny. This is the vibe of this whole game. And so all the reactions of the YouTubers, that wasn't a running gag yet. That was the first night of a running gag. And so it just kind of takes everybody surprised, and they're like, okay, I like this. So even though Exotic Butters was the 4th of those running gags, it's still the first one was the one that really hit everybody.
Very cool. Guys, I've done my job. I've given you 3 questions. I'd love for you guys to have a chance now to talk to Andy yourselves directly by asking him a question. If you'd like to, you can step up to the mic, or if that's a little bit uncomfortable for you, no problem. Just raise your hand and I'll point to you, and you can ask Mr. Andy anything you would like. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I got one right here, right up front. There you go.
Hi. Did you happen to notice a tonal shift between working with Scott with the lines versus with Steel Wool in the newer games?
No, it's great. I get the same questions over and over, and that one I've never gotten. So the question was, did I notice a tonal shift when Steel Wool took over the games? And I think the shift was already happening. I mean, if you'll notice, like Pizzeria Simulators, it sounds a little different than Sister Location, and then so Steel Wool took over where? Help Wanted, I guess, for the VR, because we wanted VR specialists, and man, what a difference that makes. So many little things in the games that you're like, wow, I just never thought it. Like having to shine your headlamp on the bad guy while solving the puzzle over here, you know, to keep him at bay. That's crazy. So I think the tonal shift was just a gradual evolution anyway, and we've gone more and more into that much smilier sound. You know, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls is much different than it seems you had some trouble with the keypad. And so I think we've gotten more announcy and more colorful and more fun as we go, and certainly by the time we've got to Help Wanted 2, it's a whole different. But I think we saw it even in the nights of Sister Location. There was it went from a very dry to a more infomercial announcer voice just in those 4 nights, I thought. What a great question.
Absolutely. All right,
All right,
okay. I got one right back there, and then I'll jump on you. Let's go right there.
What was your favorite character to voice?
Dispatch has been my favorite, not just in the FNaF games, but in anything ever. Just because the conversational aspect of it was so challenging, but also he is hilarious. And there's room for improv in that. Like in the other games, I just recorded and emailed it in. But for Dispatch, the Steel Wool guys were on Zoom with me, and there was a lot of direction and a lot of laughing and a lot of changing lines as we went, and a lot of, hey, can we hear, let's try this 3 different ways. And then, you give them 3 different ways, and they're all so good they have to choose. And that's, excuse me. And that's, the goal always as a voice actor is, if I can give you 3 takes that are all so good you don't know which one you like best, sometimes it's easy. It's like, well, they like the first one best, the other 2 were just junk. But, for example, in Secret of the Mimic, the scene where you're in the van and you've got to pick up the data diver, and I say something like, grab that data diver, grab that data diver, it's going to help you through the game. But then if you wait and you're like just exploring the van and not picking it up, I'm like, should be in there somewhere. It's a green box with 2 prongs sticking out of it. You wait a little bit longer, it's like, just pick it up whenever you find it. And then finally, not a promising start. And so, but that not a promising start, we did it like 3 ways. It was like, not a promising start. And then maybe like, not a promising start. Or maybe, not a promising start. Like, just pick it up. So it was a fun one. And I even got to write a line. There was a a lot of times people are like, did you ever improv any lines that made it into the game? And I did once in Secret of the Mimic. They said something, and I don't remember what, but they didn't like how it sounded. They're like, we've got to come up with something here. And I said, what if we said possibly murderous? Like, if this possibly murderous animatronic that's been chasing you, and they're like, that's perfect. And so, possibly murderous is me. I wrote that.
Nice.
So, that's a good one.
Hi. Does this work? Does this work? Okay. So you've asked me, and I assume other people, what our favorite FNaF games are. But what is your favorite FNaF game?
It's Secret of the Mimic now, just because of the fun it was, and also they finally gave me somebody besides the guide character, so I got to be Big Top and the pirate captain in that.
Nice.
And that's just, biggest blues. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Nice.
It only took like 15 minutes to record all of Big Top's lines.
All right, I see my buddy in the back that I met on the very first day. He came down to
Tony.
Miami. There we are. You want to come up?
Coming all the way up.
There you go.
Take your time.
What was your favorite line from Help Wanted?
Help Wanted. What's my favorite line from that? I think it's because it's so funny sounding from a computer voice to say, oh no, it looks like Bonnie's guitar is out of tune. Oh no, but it's, oh no. That's just
disembodied. Oh no.
It's just hilarious. Oh no, this is not good. Those kind of lines. Also, my favorite line is, eat it. Go on, eat it. Eat it. And you can't leave until you eat it. Delicious.
Nice.
It's pizza covered in chemical spray and roaches. So, right. Eat it. I forgot about that.
Nice.
Until just
Question,
now.
Tony?
There's another one there
Where we
in the
go?
back row in the light blue jacket.
Back row, light blue?
That was Sister Location. That was in 2016, almost, 10 years ago now, because I voiced it earlier in the year, and it came out in October. So, that was a fun one. A legendary game. And a risky game, right? Because those first 4 games were all so similar, and then Scott said, let's go bigger, move around, voice actors, colorful, new characters, and it could have flopped. And I think if it had flopped, I don't think we would have gone much further. We certainly would have had those movies and Security Breach and all of that. So.
What's your total IMDb credit list?
Well, I don't know.
How many do you have?
I don't know, because I'll do these cheap Chinese games and I'll stick those
Oh,
in there
really?
too. And so, like Contra Returns. Contra Returns, and that was, I didn't even know it was Contra Returns until it came out. It's like, you're going to play this Colonel. So there's a lot in there, but there's 7 and 5 minutes of credits. And then,
Right.
And then I threw in, I was an extra in a couple movies, so I threw those in there, even though being an extra is, no one cares. That's not good for your acting
Well, you
career.
had one that was a really big movie, though. You told me about
Avengers
the
Endgame,
one.
yeah. That was an extra
Right?
in that. That I was just a blur in the background behind Tony Stark.
That's
Three
a
days
pretty
in
good
the,
place to be, though, right behind Tony Stark.
3 days in the Atlanta Heat for that, but that's good stuff. But yeah, I've added. There's probably a couple dozen there. Wow.
Pretty good career.
Yeah, it's fun.
What we got? Somebody back here?
I think it
Anybody?
was Bella. Bella? No?
Nobody knows my name.
You had your hand up. I
Only
do.
you know my name.
Yeah.
Did you, I've noticed this, I don't know if other people have noticed this, but the increase in sarcasm for the characters you play in FNaF, did you enjoy that? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. So, and people are like, what's your favorite things you've ever done? And it's always things that are funny. Like even commercials, when they're funny, are my favorite thing to do. Because humor is just so fun. And sarcasm, that's an art form that I'm really a fan of anyway. I love the whole discussion. Just pick it up, you know. Whenever you find it. You know, so yeah, I love that kind of stuff. And like right now, there's a commercial on the radio. It's got a little sarcasm in it. It's about, you can save money with Progressive if you bundle things. That's what it's about. And it's like when you go to the restaurant, you think you'd save money using the touchpad, right? Because there's not a cashier, but no, same price, you know, and it's just this whole, you know, and who are you tipping? Yourself? You know, so I love that. That's on the radio right now. Nice. It's up for an award, so that's a good one.
Right over here in the hat.
So the question, when you're doing the scripts and you're reading them, obviously none of the physical stuff exists yet. So what kind of clues are you given in the script to know your surroundings, what you're in, like the environment to kind of put the characters to life?
Usually there's a significant amount of clues. Scott Coffin gives us almost zero. Like nothing. Like, I didn't know there was going to be a little handheld yellow guy on the screen. You know, I knew his name was Hand Unit because it was the name of the voiceover job when he advertised it on the website. Which led to a lot of speculation with the YouTubers. Like, is this a handheld computer? Is this a puppet? What is Hand Unit going to be? And, but then almost nothing. So with Steel Wool with these guys, they said Big Top is going to be like a circus ringmaster character. So we knew that. But I mean, what do I need to say tickets, please? Especially when they're there saying, let's do it cheerful, like you're taking tickets, please. And then let's say it a little more ominous, like tickets, please. And then he's crashing through the roof, killing you in a boss villain fight. Tickets, please. You know, so I didn't need much on that. Same with the pirate captain. It was just kind of like, we've heard your pirate voice, just do the pirate voice. By the way, it's everybody else's pirate voice too. Right. Like Kelly Goff's pirate in the same game, or it's almost the same character. I'm like, we could have at least differentiated a little bit, but it's kind of fun. But normally we want a whole backstory on the character. He's from this planet, his parents abandoned him when he was young, you know, he was a small guy and always picked on, and now he wants revenge on everybody. You know, we want the story. And a picture helps a lot too, because you can come up with speech impediments if he looks like he has one. Like he's an evil beaver. We know he's going to have butt teeth, so he's going to talk like that as a whistle. But, you know, so you never know. But Scott gives us very little. He gives you guys even less.
We got one in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my favorite jump scare. This is a little unconventional, and it's before Secret of the Mimic. It's the only jump scare I was responsible for, and it's when you're crawling across Balora's gallery in this location, and you have to turn the volume up and wear headphones because as Balora approaches, you hear her music in one ear, and you hear it leaving in the other ear, so you know to stop. And right before you do that, I say, I will turn myself off so as to not provide an auditory disturbance. And you're about halfway through the gallery and your volume's turned all the way up when I said, you seem to be taking a long time. And it's like, oh God, because you're already, and that's the secret of a jump scare is you have to distract people. Like even before this location, you know, you play those maze games and then the horrible face would pop up. It's distracting you with concentration is the secret to a jump scare. Same in a haunted house, when somebody thinks the monster's over there and he pops up out of a drop panel on the wall. Those are the, you know, that's how they get you. I keep the table. So yeah, that's the fun of the jump scare. So I love that.
Right there.
Unused. I mean, I know there are unused lines because every time I do a game now, I film myself and then I release it as a behind-the-scenes video when the game comes out. And my security breach video, a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, all these! Why didn't you know?" I was like, "I probably should have released all that." You know, because some of it may or may not be a hint to lore later. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying I probably should not be the one revealing that, and I just didn't watch the game enough to know it wasn't in the game. I don't know that I have any that are my favorites. I will say, and this is fun, I don't think I've ever said this to anybody before, but, no, I better not say it. Because people are filming, and next thing you know, that gets online, and then a million people are like, oh, I should have done this.
Were you ever in the studio?
No, I've done a few gigs in studios, but not for Five Nights at Freddy's. Typically, it's because I'm traveling, and I just don't have my studio. You know, I live in Louisiana, and I don't think there's a better studio in the state than mine anyway. And if there is, it's 4 hours away in New Orleans, which is a long way to drive. It's like if you live in upstate New York, people are like, oh, I always wanted to see the Statue of Liberty. I live in Louisiana, it's like, oh, I love New Orleans. I'm like, oh. They go, I don't know, once a year maybe, and usually it's driving through. But I recorded in my studio, and the best experience was when the Steel Wool guys were on the screen with me. So it was like a studio experience, you know, where they could direct and say, yeah, that was okay, let's try it again this way, you know, that was fun. But I did record one commercial one time in Ardent Studios in Memphis, which is a legendary, it was early in my career. I thought I had made it. It was a commercial, it paid like $7,000, and so I was like, I've made it. Spoiler, I didn't get another $7,000 gig for like years, but it was in Memphis is legendary for music recording. This is where Led Zeppelin and Leonard Skinner recorded their live albums in the early 70s, and I was in the vocal isolation booth, so I know this is where their singers were. And I mean, you could like look at their website and just, they had recorded, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of just legendary music acts in there. So that was kind of cool. You've never heard the commercials like Blue Cross Blue Shield in Idaho, so.
Who was your favorite animatronic?
Big Top. Without hesitation, Big Top. But then your next question would be, who's your favorite animatronic that you don't voice? And that's Mr. Hippo. And then your next question would be, who's your favorite of the OG 4? And that's Bob. Because he just looks cool, and he's purple. I just made a video recently to say he was purple, and that's just rage baiting the fans for engagement. He's blue, but he looks purple in the first game.
All right, so I'm gonna go back there first.
Hey, kind of a technical question. Do you have one go-to microphone that you use for all of your recording work, or do you change based on the type of voicing?
It's one. I have two microphones in my booth, and they're both expensive. And I use the second most expensive one because it's just easier. So I have a Neumann U87 in my booth. That's a $3,200 microphone, and I just take pictures with it. It's kind of like if you're a lawyer, you want an expensive car in the driveway so you look like a winner. And then my other one's a Sennheiser MKH 416, which is a shotgun mic that they use on movie sets. It's the one, you know, they put on the pole to hang over you, but it's just become the Los Angeles voiceover mic. It's in every studio. It helps in your own studio because it's directional, and in theory but no, it still picks up like any little sound in the booth, anything outside. It's just a good mic, and it's easy to travel with because it's long and skinny, so and it has a foam screen, so I just stick it in the bag and it's screen.
I'm gonna go over here next, and then I'm coming back over there. Go ahead. No, gentleman right behind you. Oh, I didn't see yours right there. I'll get you right after that one. You're in that green hat. Yep, that's yours.
What was the strongest animatronic you voiced?
Well, I only voiced two. I think it's Big Top because he's like 20 feet tall and has like 6 spider arms. So I don't know. How many arms does he have? 4? He has a lot. 4? Somebody's nodded 4. They're like spidery arms. They're cool. He's certainly the strongest. Plus he crashes through the roof, and we don't see the pirate captain do that.
Young lady right behind the Atari shirt.
That's right. Yeah.
If given the opportunity to voice any of the other animatronics, would you?
Mr. Hippo. And I would make him Southern, and you guys are from Atlanta, so you would participate this. Because Mr. Hippo, if you don't know, is just a rambling old man monologue. And really the humor of Mr. Hippo is, so in Ultimate Custom Night, every time you get killed by one of the like 40 characters in it, they just give you a little catchphrase, and then the game reboots and you get to go. Mr. Hippo goes into a rambling old man monologue, and you can't click out of it. And if you turn the game off and turn it back on, it resumes with Mr. Hippo. And he goes, and he's not Southern, so let's imagine if he were Southern. My friend, you've met a terrible, terrible demise. I don't feel too bad about it, though, because if it wasn't me, it'd just be one of these other fellas that killed you. It's like I was saying the other day, I was having a picnic, with my friend Orville. Orville's an elephant, and we were out having at the pond. Orville's having pastrami on rye. Now, I don't know if elephants like rye bread, but Orville sure does. Anyway, and I was having an Arnold Palmer. That's half sweet tea, half lemonade. I don't know if you ever had an Arnold Palmer, but man, son, it's good. Anyway, and then I usually like to buy bread at the bakery that's a day old because I'll feed the ducks. Anyway, that's like the first 30 seconds of the 5 minute. And he's just wandering all along, and he just killed you. And then it goes into like this 80s school yearbook style photo with like his picture off to one side and the camera kind of panning across it. It's just adorable. I love it. I would love to be Mr. Hippo. Let me wander again. I'm also in a game called Arzette Jewel of Fairmore, which is this great Zelda tribute. And I play Alvin the Blacksmith Moose. And here's where I'm getting to this. There's a scene that you can't click out of with Alvin the Moose where he's forging the chainsword for you. And it's just a bunch of grunts and groans and hammer clangs as he goes, ooh, God. And you cannot click out of it. And it's at least 3 minutes of that. It's fantastic. And I said, that's such a Mr. Hippo-esque troll to the player. And then in the middle of all that, he goes, just a little bit longer. And then, so it's pretty cool. And I don't know how he holds the hammer because he's a moose. He has hooves. Sorry.
Go
That's
back
not
over
bad.
here to SFGE, Donna.
Me?
Yeah, you had a question. I remember.
Sorry. You said that you were a teacher. I was wondering if you like being a teacher more than you like voice acting, or do you feel like you like voice acting more than you were a teacher?
That's a dangerous question.
I like voice acting more, but it's not because of the kids. Like I taught middle school and people are like, oh yeah, it's middle school. Like, no, the middle school kids are like my favorite people on earth, and so I love the conventions where I can get my fix on that. It's the adults that were bad. And it was the vocation that kind of is regressing and turning into, just this big bureaucratic nightmare, Like I got in trouble one time. I got an email from my assistant principal, and she said, I noticed you didn't post your lesson plans online this week. She was like, I got you. And I replied, I wondered when you checked. It's been 3 years. No, I quit in 2017. And so one reason I like voice acting better is that I'm my own boss and I'm in charge of my own time. Like as a teacher, you get 27 minutes with lunch with the kids. So if you need to call the bank, you're stepping outside with a lunchroom burrito in your hand and calling the bank and trying to get that done. If you have a job and you ever get to just sit for a minute at your job and think about maybe vacation plans, there's none of that when you're teaching. You're the active force in the room the whole time. Then there's 5 minutes in between class. You can't even go to the bathroom because you get to be there as your kids go in. So it's really, and there's not ample compensation for that. Ample compensation makes every job okay, right? Like if you're sucking out porta potties with a big truck, it's your truck and you own the porta potties. That's a great job. Sign me up. You'll make $1,000 a day renting porta potties.
I don't know if 1,000 is going to cover that.
1,000 a day? That's 365,000 a year.
I don't know.
That's great.
I've worked in one of those companies.
Yeah. All right, lots of hands up because we'll be talking about
All right, let's go right there, gentlemen. Yep.
I don't know any of the fan games. I mean, I'm old. I barely know the games I'm in. So I've heard of them. I've heard of Joy of Creation. That's a fan game, right? I've heard of no, I haven't. I have a shirt from Cinco Noches con Alfredo, but that's just because I like Spanish.
Gentleman right here with black shirt.
We'll jump on your porta potty comment.
Okay.
Do you own a porta
Sean,
potty?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll make sense. So Sean Connery recorded the famous opening voiceover for the 1986 movie Highlander while sitting on the toilet in the bathroom of a Spanish villa.
Okay.
In your travels, have you ever recorded in an unusual location? What would you consider the most unusual location? Certainly not maybe sitting on the toilet, but what's your most unique?
I've done a lot of hotel closets, and Homewood Suites have really good sized closets that'll hold a chair, and I used to bring moving blankets with me, and also a hammer and nails, and I would nail those blankets up in those closets. But you just nail them behind the door frame, kind of, and don't just leave a hole in the wall that anybody can see. Or you fill up the hole with white toothpaste. Yeah. That's a college hack also when you're moving out. There you go. Read it.
He's probably the most annoying animatronic except Mr. Hippo.
I've heard that Chica's Magic Rainbow is the most annoying. I haven't watched FNaF World to know that, but she's played by Debbie Derryberry, who's the voice of Jimmy Neutron. So certainly the most famous FNaF voice actor. And Debbie has told me, Chica's a little a-hole. So, except she said the real word. Who else is the most annoying? Who is it? Who's the one that is always after you in, I can't remember. I don't play him enough to get that annoyed because I just rage quit, because I'm old. I have no vested interest in winning the game, you know, so I'm just like, it's all good. But maybe Dispatch. Well, he's not an animatronic. Yeah? I don't know. Front row here.
I guess I was actually going to kind of play off that last comment you made. It's a little bit of an explanation, but I went to Miss Ellen McLean and her husband's panel last night where she was talking about her method acting for voicing Gladys, who is a robot AI who, at the end of the game, when you destroy the cores, becomes a more human-like voice. And in Secret of Mimic, it's a little bit of the opposite. So, do you find yourself doing a particular method acting? Do you separate the characters at different points in the game? How do you feel transitioning through that, going through that, basically?
That's interesting. Well, what we did and what the directors did on that, which was helpful, was we did all of Dispatch's lines first, and then we did all of Dispatch taken over by the Mimic's lines. And then they forgot, and then we went back and did some Dispatch lines again. But it was helpful because Dispatch is just a dude. You know, he's like, Arnie, buddy, you know, what's up? You know. And then when the Mimic, they said, now we want this to be a little flatter. Still the same. And so then it was a little more of, you know, just press that red button over there. And it was like, some people noticed it right away and some people didn't. But as far as the method acting, I mean, I've never method acted. And bear in mind that I'm not a classically trained actor like some of these, like Ellen probably is. But, I mean, it is kind of acting 101 that says if you can't relate to this, find a situation that's like this and relate to that. For example, there was a public service announcement about bullying that I voiced, and I played a gay dad. And I'm not gay, and I mean, I have some gay friends, but they didn't want me to do, my gay friends are flamboyant. So they didn't want that, you know, they didn't want, oh my God, you know, I mean, you know, it's like, there's no gay accent. Of course there is. Everybody knows it, that's why we're laughing at that. But it was two gay dads with a kid who's getting bullied at school. So I've never done that, but I've certainly had kids who were having a hard time, and you certainly feel for your kids when they're having a hard time. There's nothing you can do about it, you know. And so pulling on that, I was able to sound upset and just hurt and hurting for your kid, you know, and a little mad in the background. And I told the director that. He said, well, that's exactly what actors are supposed to do. So that's kind of the secret to it all, is if you can't relate, at least find something that you can relate about, you know. So that's a good question. It's fun. I don't talk about acting much. I just read my first Shakespeare thing like a couple of years ago. I managed to make it through high school. I wrote a whole paper about Macbeth. That's how dumbed down English 4 was. Never read Macbeth. So, lots of worksheets, crossword puzzles about Macbeth. Green hoodie again? Yeah.
If you could make an animatronic, what animal would it be?
Oh, I've had this question. I would like to make Mr. Fishy, and he would be a big fish with sharp teeth and 2 legs. No arms, though.
No arms.
Yeah, but a big, kind of yellowish fish. Imagine a big round fish, 2 legs poking up the bottom. You could cosplay as that. He would look kind of the same build as Flounder from Little Mermaid. Kind of that same build, but with big sharp teeth, you know. Kind of like the big ghost in the Mario games. You know, the big round. It would kind of look like that, but with 2 legs. Kind of Big Bird looking legs, big orange legs. Big orange. Mr. Fishy. Maybe he'd be gurgly, maybe not. Like that.
So, you said that before you really don't get a lot of heads up on what the character's going to be or any kind of like background or anything. So obviously the first one you did was kind of the start of that character, but then it kept playing out in other games. So once you've seen what that developed into, were you ever disappointed that the way that you portrayed them was not quite what you saw it as in the game?
I would like to put more energy into the announcer lines and security breach. You know, you just didn't know there was going to be Van Halen style music and lights coming down and all these glam rock characters. And you know, and my line is like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together. But if I had known it was going to be this epic concert thing, it would have been more like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and, you know, I would have just, you know, rocketed out there. But part of it is kind of, they were okay with that just because it was supposed to be a little flat. It still was, Security Breach was only 3 games after Sister Location. So it was still supposed to be that computer voice. That's a good question. Mr. Fishy. Maybe he'd be, I would play with it for a while. And you know, a lot of times in an audition, you'll send 3 or 4 ideas, and so I certainly think he'd be a little gurgly like this, you know, he'd be kind of because he lives under the water, you know. But I do that a lot whenever I do auditions for aquatic, you know, squids and things like that. So that would be a fun one. But that would, you know, just kind of hang it in. But then sometimes I go like here, I go back in the throat, and that's always fun. And he could be Southern or he could be Midwestern. That'd be fun. I don't know. And then you got to throw in a Southern option, just in case. There's a few Southern characters like Big Patch. No, he's not Southern. There's a Southern bear in Custom Night.
Ned Bear.
Ned Bear, because I think I auditioned for him. I said, I've got this. I'm going to get this part. I'm the most Southern person auditioning for this. Doesn't matter. They probably cast some Hollywood fake Southern accent for that. I don't know. I don't even know the Ned Bear voice actor.
Is
Like
there anything that you put in for, but you didn't get, that you then later seen happen, that you were like, oh, I wish I would have been the person who did that?
So Mr. Hippo, again, we're going to go back to him. And I auditioned for Mr. Hippo. And my friend Joe Gaudet, who plays Mr. Hippo, had already gotten Funtime Foxy and Rockstar Foxy. So we had become friends already. And I said, I'm going to beat him for Mr. Hippo. And the reason I'm going to beat him is that I know Five Nights at Freddy's, and he does not. And Mr. Hippo is a dark soul, right? He's got a dark past. That was, so far, what we knew of all the characters. That was not the case with Mr. Hippo. In fact, Ultimate Custom Night, there really wasn't any backstory on any of these characters. They were all just funny, right? And so, you know, I was like, my friend, you have met a terrible demise. You know, I just wanted, I was much more melancholy than Joe, who was just like your grandpa talking about fishing. You know, just rambling. And Joe improvised probably 50% of that. Just went off script and just was talking about the Arnold Palmers and the rye bread and the elephants. Oh, it's just hilarious. Yeah, so that was one where I looked back and thought, and then that happens all the time in commercials. You'll hear a commercial and say, I auditioned for that. You know, you pull up your audition and go, oh, yeah, I didn't do that. You know, that's why they got it. Of course, you never know what they're going to want. That's the fun part of this, or maybe not so fun.
So I was just wondering, have you met all of the actors from Ultimate Custom Night or like all the actors from Secret Breach?
I've not met them all. The question was, have I met all of the voice actors basically from everything? I've met some. So 10 years ago, you know, when Sister Location was coming out, they flew 6 of us out to SAC Anime. That was our first Comic-Con in Sacramento. And so it was me, Kellen Goff, who plays all the bears now, and lots of other things. Heather Masters, who was Circus Baby. Michelle Amos, who was Ballora, and has only done maybe one other Comic-Con. She lives like 6 hours from an airport in the wilds of Canada. And then it was Becky Shrimpton, also Canadian, who played Bon Bon. And Julie Shields, who's the computer voice in Sister Location, who says, motion trigger activated. Scariest line in the game. And then I've met Chris McCullough, who's also in Sister Location. He's the vampire in the cutscenes, Vlad, and he's Fredbear in FNaF World, and he's Pirate Foxy, and a couple things. And then I've met Joe Gaudet. We've done a Comic-Con together. And then I've met Darby Worley, the voice of Withered Chica. I met her last year just at a voiceover conference, like not a Comic-Con, like everybody there was a voice actor. Most not well known for anything. So Darby and I are good friends now. She didn't even know FNaF was a thing for like 3 years. And then when the fandom found her, she's built her TikTok up to like 120,000 people just in the past year. Like everything she posts is with Chica. So she lives in England. Who have I met in person? And then I'm social media friends with a lot more. Like I know Cameron, who's the voice of Rockstar Foxy. No, he's Victor Brigader. Dave Steele is Cassette Guy in Pizzeria Simulator, and I think those 2 guys are getting their first Comic-Con coming up soon. It was just a little thing that was near where they lived, and they asked me, and I said, they were like a library, and so they didn't have a budget. I was like, well, I mean, you have to fly me out there, and they're like, we can't do that. So got those guys. Who else do I know? Madison Brunholder is Happy Frog. Know her on social media. I know a good bit of them on social media. And then a few more I know who they are, but I'm not friends with them on social media just because we haven't. I hate to just send somebody a friend request. Like, hi. You know, but I'm not friends with the Meskamins, all three of them that are in Secret of the Mimic. Jim Meskamin and his wife and his daughter. Jim is Mr. Helpful. And he's legendary in voiceover, so he gets a lot of friend requests every day anyway. Who else is in Secret of the Mimic? Oh, Marta. I've met Marta online, Spedic. She's Roxanne Wolf and one of the pirates, and I think she's Vanny. I think she's Gregory. They're all fun. All good people to be around. That's a long answer.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just gonna say, we are running close to the time. Yeah, because we gotta do quarter tills, so the next panel can come in and get set up. Yeah, so maybe one or two more questions, so make sure they're good ones.
Especially with my 5-minute answer.
So let's go with you, sir, right there. Yep. Oh, no, we're over here.
A lot of them link up with me on social media now. And some of them will say, I was in your class, and then their username